Okay, from this fundamental middle game manual, I show you what happens and what are the plans pro and against the IQP, the isolated queen pawn. Now we are going to chapter 6, which discuss the d5 square in the Sicilian. Please, I know that you think it's important to know the opening. Well, you don't know the opening if you don't study this manual, because it will show you what happened on that square, how the players change their ideas through the years, and how they improve their knowledge of the middle game itself. And we are speaking of recent times, like the 1970s. We are not speaking of the 1900, okay? So, the game I would like to show you, let's start with game number 1, because it's about this Boleslavsky, a famous chess player in the Soviet Union that had this idea of a pawn on e5. I mean, I'm sorry, I reached that idea by myself, but I could avoid to reinvent the wheel if I would have had this manual before. e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6 attacking this, knight c3 protecting it, d6 because you need to avoid that he push at this point, okay, and bishop e2, e5. This is the point, okay, and this is even the prototype of a Najdorf variation, so that's why we must learn it, we must understand what's going on. Now, this game is played between Emanuel Reicher and Isaac Boleslavsky in Bucharest 1953. 1953, okay? Knight b3, bishop e7, bishop g5, castle. Now, I'm not gonna tell you the lines that he gives here with a possible computer evaluation, because honestly, not much interested in that, no? What I'm interested is in the following. After this castle, we have this. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, okay? Boom, knight d5. So this is the point, right? We have a backwood pawn and this knight that has a very good outpost. Will white be able to keep that outpost? Yes, no, what's gonna happen? What does black want to do here about this? Because you generally don't want to lose your bishop pair, while white lost his, right? Okay, black continue with bishop g5. Here the author makes a comparison with the position that arise from the Sveshnikov's variation. Sveshnikov is this famous grandmaster that played the c3 Alapin Sicilian all his life, and he said the c3 Sicilian put bread over my table. So it was a very good. But they were accusing him in the 1970s, saying that the line he invented and played was very ugly and wasn't working. Why? Because it created a kind of imbalance and damage pawn structure. So let's see this position, keep it in mind, with what comes out from the Sveshnikov, okay? So let's go back. So Zlotnik is e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, e5 right away. Boom. Okay, that's interesting, right? Knight db5, d6, bishop g5, e6, knight f3, b5, knight d5, bishop e7, bishop takes f6, like we have seen just now, bishop takes f6, bishop e2, bishop g5, and castle. So we have a very similar position, but the main difference is the placement of the second white knight, right? In the Zlotnik, from the a3 square, the knight can enter play in a more natural way than from the e3. No, if it was here, it cannot go here to support this, right? While here it's kind of clear that he can make this maneuver and this. So I think between the two, I like white's position a little more in this sense. Also, if this is a backward, and so it will be a target, because this is an open file for black. Okay, that's interesting. So let me pause the video and return to the position of the game between Riker and Boleslavsky. And let's see if he says something else that it could be interesting. Yeah, no. Okay, let me show you again. e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, d6, bishop e2, e5, knight b3. So before we saw that move, and now the knight goes to b3. Bishop e7, bishop g5, castle, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight d5, bishop g5. Okay, and here we have the comparison. So this is here now compared to here. So here in this game was played bishop c4, but another plan is obviously castle. Okay. In that case, obviously, the deployment of this bishop, the light square bishop, is different. Because after black plays this, white will play this one. And here it gives you a line, so you can eventually deepen the knowledge of that. But in this game was played bishop c4, bishop e6, and that is telling you something. If you played bishop c4 compared to the other bishop g4, guess what white played at this point? He played h4. Boom. This is seems kind of sacrifice, right? Here it says, with this and the following move, white is trying to restrict the bishop g5, but it weakens the f4 square. White could have kept the balance with c3. So it tells him to fight on the queen side. Instead he plays played h4. Now, obviously, you cannot take. Why you cannot take? Because there is not a knight here that protects this, So if you take, the next move is queen h5. What do you do then? Huh? Because it starts to become a little problematic, right? This square, if you move it back, you get checkmated right away. So that's why you cannot take. And so black plays bishop h6. But once you play bishop h6, the next move comes evidently because it's based on this. He wanted to attack the king side, right? And he plays g4. However, in the line given here, it says that after c3, that, as you can see, prevents black to control the d4 square. Stockfish gives a slight advantage for black after a line that is about 6 moves long. But again, watch the lines that they will give. When you buy the book, you can watch the line and make your own opinion. But in this game it was played g4. As we can see, once you play g4, this one, it's gone, right? And why he needs to play this? Because the next move is this, and so this is trap, right? So you don't want that. So this is what makes sense. But this also controls this square, so the king is in the center, and he cannot go there in order to create a connection between the rooks and then attack. Okay? So that's kind of interesting. Let's see how we solve the problem. Queen e2, rook c8, typical move in the Sicilian, and c3. Knight e7. As you can see, there is a little fight because probably he wants to keep this here. And now white played rook d1, and this seems a little mistake, okay? Why? This is a tactical error, he says, because he should have played, at this point he played knight g6, but it's not good. The right move is bishop takes g4. Wow, very interesting. So why bishop takes g4? Because queen takes g4, rook takes c4, you have lost a pawn, right? But after bishop takes g4, the move is knight f6. Okay? G takes f6, queen takes g4, check. King h8, bishop e2, and so you have not gained one pawn, but you have damaged yourself. Let's see better so you can see it, okay? So bishop g4, knight f6, that is an intermediate, g takes f6, queen takes g4, king h8, bishop e2, and rook g8. So this gives black a clear advantage. Interesting move, interesting move. Yeah, because with this thing controlling here, and now that things in kind of damage, who knows how would you continue here as white? Because this pawn now is becoming a problem, and the two rooks are not connected to continue the attack. Well, clearly a beautiful line, maybe not exploited in the game. It was something that was worth to think about, and if I'm right, the position was this. Let's see. Okay, so after rook d1 he played knight g6 instead. of bishop takes g4, and he got h5, knight h4, and bishop d3. Again, this is not the best move. In the book they say the best defense is knight d2, probably found thanks to the computer. Queen g5, f3, because obviously he's all attacking this, bishop g3, king f1, and this is the position here. Here why is this position very important? Because the author says now it is clear that white strategy has been faulty, as the knight d5 is ineffective and merely helps black achieve the important advance of the pawn f7 on the king side, where black has a clear advantage. So, wow, this is kind of interesting situation, yeah, because at this point, boom, he plays f5. Amazing move. So here, at this point in the game, you need to analyze why g takes f5 is not good, okay? Well, the point is that he will take back, take and place the rook here. And then we'll take on f5. So let's see this line, okay? What happens if he plays this? G takes f5. Bishop takes d5. E takes d5. Rook c, e8. Bishop e4. Knight takes f5, rook d3, and bishop f4 with a decisive advantage for black. Now let's return back to the position. Okay, so more or less we were at this position where black played f5. And we saw what happens if white continues with g takes f5. But you see, already at this point, I think I have learned from this game that the knight d5 is not really important at this point and is not giving me trouble as black, like I thought it would give, because when you have such a big outpost, you would think, oh, I need to exchange. No, I don't. So just this game gave me an idea, okay? So that's not bad. Now, how did white continue? He played rook g1. And black played a very interesting move, which is knight takes f3, boom. Rook takes g3. At this point we already see that the game is nearly ending because lines are opening, white king is in the center, but the black king is protected. So what is white actually doing? F takes e4, the king immediately escape, king g2, e takes d3, rook takes d3, but also queen takes d3 loses, and the author shows it in the book. Bishop takes d5. Now this finally this knight is taken out of the board. Rook takes d5, queen h4, and obviously here the problem is this, right? And then there is checkmate in some ways, probably. Let's see. Okay, queen h4, let's see what he does. see what he can do. No, okay, so if he does this is gone, it's even worse. Okay, so obviously he needed to take out this, that he did, but then he loses to this. Queen takes g4, and here white gave up. Why did white give up? Because let's say he does this, okay, attack, queen takes f3, right? But at this point you don't exchange, you just play this, and this wins the queen and the game, right? Yeah, a beautiful game that has demonstrated that the knight d5 wasn't doing much. Now this chapter, chapter 6, is all about this, okay? So it clearly is important, this manual, because it will open your eyes to how the d5 square has been used, abused and controlled by both armies. Hope you will enjoy the book and the games.